Hello and welcome back to CA 121. Today we're going to be talking about Chapter 4, how to create pivot tables, and also we're going to talk a little bit about databases and how to work with multiple databases in Microsoft Access. So here we go. When you download your files for this chapter, Grader, you're going to see that you have a lot of files. You actually have two Excel looking files. One is a CSV that says full supplies. That's not the one you want. You want the XLS, student Excel, or this would say your name. So you want this one that says aquatics. And again, this chapter I made into two separate videos. The first one covers the vocabulary and the second one covers the grader alone. So make sure that you have watched the chapter 4 vocabulary video if you haven't already. Hopefully it'll make everything kind of cohesive and make sense. Alright, so when we're inserting a pivot table, it says to click on A2. Really, you can click anywhere. You go to your Insert tab, you go to Pivot Table. Here they want us to put it into a new worksheet. So we're going to press OK. And it wants us to name this pivot table 2. You notice how it says pivot table 1. If for some reason you don't have this area that says pivot table name, that just means that you need to navigate there. So remember, you have different tabs. When you're clicked on the pivot table, you have even more tabs. You have now the Analyze and Design pivot table tools. So you go to the Analyze and it should be there. Now you notice that the pivot table is actually blank right now. That's because we haven't told it what to do. Remember, a pivot table is great for analyzing. It can sum, which is the default, can add, it can organize your data. So first you have to tell it what data you want it to look at and what you want it to do with that data. So here it says add the month field to the filters area, then add the pull field to the rows area, and the item field to the columns area. Place the amount field in the values area. So notice how it's blank right now. That's because we haven't put anything in the values. So it's going to remain blank until we tell it, hey, this is what I want you to, these are the numbers I want you to add. Or remember, for value field settings, we can have them to add, count, average, max, min, product, so on and so forth. And remember, again, the default is to sum. Right, so that was step 2. Step 3 says format the values in the pivot table using the number category. All right, so you can either highlight and go to your home tab and edit your numbers there, or I like to just click on one of the numbers. I right click on it. I go to, value field settings. I go to number format. I'm going to click on number. I forgot what it wanted me to do. I think it wanted the number format with commas and no decimal places. And I press OK. OK. And it should now have commas on all the numbers with no decimal places. Step 4 says insert slicers. So slicers, remember, you can insert into any table. It doesn't have to be a pivot table. You just click anywhere on your table, you click insert, and we're going to slicers. Slicers are just visual little buttons that you can insert for those people who are using your Excel spreadsheet. If you know how to use a spreadsheet, then you really don't need slicers for yourself. They're usually for other people in case they don't really understand how to filter. Let's see. So they want a slicer for tropics and spoffies. For pool and item. So pool and item. That'll bring up 2 separate slicers. And for pool, they want us to move it to E3. Or sorry, let's go ahead and do the filter. They want tropics and spoffies. And for pool, they want it in E3. And for item, they want it in G3. There we go. Make a copy of those worksheet and name the copied worksheet tropics pool. So I'm going to go down here. I'm going to right click. I'm going to go to move or copy. I'm going to click create a copy. I'm going to press OK and name it tropics pool. So This is the copy, so I'm gonna name it graphics pool. Alright, next it wants me to display sheet 1. So we're in step 5. So I go to sheet 1 and I want to clear the filters and it wants me to delete these. So I just press the delete, click on them, click the delete button, rename this to 2Q. And then I'm going to insert a pivot chart. To insert a pivot chart, I have to be clicked onto the pivot table that I want. Go to insert, and now for recommended charts, it's not going to be one of these. It's not going to be a regular chart. It's going to be a pivot chart. You can only insert a pivot chart from a pivot table. And they're basically normal charts. And it wants me to insert the step column. Chart type. And then it wants me to move the chart to a new worksheet and name it 2Q revenue chart. So I'm going to right click it. I'm going to say move chart to a new sheet and I'm going to name that 2Q revenue chart and then press enter. Now we're in step 7 where it says apply the layout to the chart. So I'm going to click anywhere on the table. I should have now pivot chart tools. I can go to design. I want to change the layout to layout 3. It wants me to add centered data labels and hide all the filled values. Alright, so for data labels, I go here. I'm going to look at, click on data labels and I'm going to center them, which I think they do by default. And then it says to hide all the filled buttons. So filled buttons, actually we click here, are under the Analyze Pivot Chart tabs. You see we have filled buttons right here. We could say hide all. Alright, so again, the filled buttons are where it says, okay, here's the filters, here's the sum, all that. Here's pool. So I'm going to go ahead and go hide all. They're gone. For the chart title, I'm going to double click that and I'm going to change the chart title to second quarter products program revenue. And then I'm going to click insert a custom footer with file name in the left hand section. So when you are inserting a custom footer, you want it to do to the whole chart. So I make sure I click kind of like outside. I'm going to go to page layout. We're going to insert a custom footer with the file name in the left hand section. I press OK. Done. Alright, step 8 is a little tricky, so make sure you pay attention to this part. This is the part that everybody kind of messes up on. It's new. Alright, so now we are going to import some data. So let me just copy. So now we're going to add a new worksheet. And it says to click on the data tab. We're going to get data from a database, Microsoft Access database. This is where you really need to, when you're downloading your graders, you need to save it somewhere that you maybe make a file for each grader like I have. So I've made a file for, each grader and I download it there. So that's easy to find these things when you're trying to import them. Alright, then it should bring up a little navigation page. You're going to select multiple items. You're going to make sure to select both of your databases. So there's a database on suppliers and a database on supply order summary. I'm going to click load once I click both of those. And then it should come up with a queries and connections tab. I don't need this open anymore. Close that. If that doesn't show up, if for some reason that doesn't show up, all you have to do is go to the data tab, go to queries and connections, and it'll pop it right up. Alright, so the next part says insert a pivot table in the existing worksheet. So I'm just going to click on A1 And I'm going to say, okay, I want to go to insert. I want to insert a pivot table. Because I already have these queries and connections that these two databases that I downloaded, it's going to automatically think, oh yes, I want to use that instead of, usually when you insert a pivot table, you have to be clicked on the table that you want to convert. But here, it automatically knows, hey, it's those two databases that you just had me get. All right, I'm going to say into the existing worksheet. That's why I clicked on A1, so that it automatically realizes that's where I want to put it. All right, and so now it's blank again. So now I say, okay, what do I want it to do? What do I want it to show? Well, I want it to show with supplier field from the suppliers table. So remember, I have two databases. So I'm going to say, hey, I want the supplier field to be in the columns area. So I just drag and drop. And then from the supply order summary table, so that's the other table. So I might open that up, and I want to have item field in the rows area. Notice how it's blank. I need it to tell it what I want it to calculate. And I want the quantity field in the values. And again, it wants to apply the number format, so I can right click on one of these. I can go to value field settings, number format, use comma separators, no decimals, okay. Okay, and this one is kind of hard to see. There's only a couple numbers that are over 1,000 that need the commas, but there they are. All right, so now it wants me to insert a row above the pivot table, so I click on row 1, I right click, click insert, and in A1 I'm going to type in aquatic program purchases, and then I'm going to apply the title cell style. And rename the sheet aquatics purchases. So I go down here, double click, or I can right click and click rename. So that was step 11. Right now it wants me to insert a pivot chart. Remember, you have to be clicked on the pivot table to insert a pivot chart, which is this third one right here. Make sure it says pivot chart. And I want to have it as a 3D pie. So I go to pie 3D, click OK, and I want to move that to its own sheet. It says name that aquatic supplies chart. Okay. So now it should open up like that. I'm going to close the queries and connections. I don't really need that anymore. And I'm also going to close that for now. I'm gonna. Alright, so now it wants me to display the field list, which I just closed. So let's go back. We're gonna click on the chart, and it will give me some more tools. I'm gonna go analyze. I'm gonna say, hey, show me my field list, and I'm going to modify it so that the supplier field displays in the axis. So move the supplier to the axis. You move any field that displays in the legend. So I'm going to just get rid of item, because otherwise that'll be a nonsensical table. Apply style 3. So I'm going to say, hey, I'm going to go to design. I'm going to go to style 3 for chart style. Remove the legend from the chart. So to remove a legend, I go to this little plus sign for chart elements. I'm going to unclick the legend and display the category name for data labels. So I'm going to go to data labels. I'm going to go to more options. That, and I'm going to say, hey, I want the category name and the percentage, but I don't want to show the leader lines. I want it centered, which it already is. Format the data labels by changing the font to size 11. They're already highlighted. So again, my way of doing that is just to go to the home tab and click 11. And that should do the trick. Lastly, it says, step 15 says change the chart title. So I'm going to double click the chart title to aquatic supply purchases. and then change the font size to 24. So I'm gonna make sure it's clicked on there, move it to 24, make sure it actually gets bigger. If for some reason it doesn't, it's because maybe you need to click out and back in and then change it to 24 again. Hide all the filled buttons. So remember, that's under the Analyze tab. You go to Filled Buttons and you're gonna say Hide All. And then insert a custom footer with the file. So I'm gonna kind of click out of it and I'm going to go to Insert, Page Layout, Custom Footer with file name. Alright, last but not least, we're almost done. It says hide the aquatics revenue sheet. So I'm going to go to the aquatics revenue sheet. I'm going to right click and say hide. Let's go back to our directions. Then it says select all the sheets and insert a footer in the left hand section. This part is tricky, especially because we're clicked into a chart. So for example, say I'm clicked in the chart and then I go and I select, and then I press Control and I click all these. Okay, and then I go to page setup. Yes, it'll let me insert a custom footer, and then it looks like, oh my gosh, I already have a footer, and then I go to margins and it won't let me set a horizontal. That is because I was clicked in the chart, so it's getting confused. So what I really suggest is you find a table, not a table, a worksheet that doesn't have a chart, and you start with that, and then you press your Control and you select all of the tabs, and then you go to your page layout. We're now going to insert custom footer, and it shouldn't have anything in the left hand section. We are in the right place. We're going to insert our custom footer, and then we're going to center horizontally and change the orientation to landscape. So again, if you don't have horizontally, just go back and reselect all the worksheets, maybe starting with traffic's pool. Okay, now I'm gonna press OK. Oops, I forgot to fit to one page. So fit to one page wide. I don't care about the height, so I'm just gonna delete that and then press OK. Now it says display the properties, so I'm going to go here. I'm going to go to info. For tags, I'm going to add a tag of aquatic revenue, supplies. Press enter or tab, either one. And then for subject, it wants us to write in the course name. It doesn't really matter what you put here, just as long as it's something, then make sure your name is here. If not, you can click add an author. Then you're going to press save or even save as. You can actually save these as different file names, like submit this one, in case you're getting confused with all your files. And then go ahead and upload it. Hopefully this was helpful in completing your chapter 4 grader. Make sure that you understand the vocabulary, and I have a separate video for that. Have a good day.